So let me just recap for you. Jesus has been doing some work for a while now. Am I not on? Technical issues. Am I on? Yep. Just a little technical glitch there, but we're back. So let me recap where Jesus is at here. Jesus has been doing some work for a while, and he's just taking a little look at how things are going. And he thinks, I've done some pretty good stuff here. It's going quite well, I think. But then he looks a little bit further and realizes there is so much more that needs to be done than he can do by himself. So he looks to his followers and he selects a small group of them to help him. So first, he selects a pollster so that he can run a poll to see whether or not what he's doing is actually really welcome or accepted, and whether or not people really appreciate what he's doing, and whether or not it's worth spending more time doing more of it. While that poll is being conducted, he selects his media team, which of course includes a speechwriter, somebody to run his social media, his Twitter account, and to do all of those things that are part of his communication network. Of course, as that's happening, he realizes that what's really going to be needed here is a fundraiser. So he hires somebody to organize fundraising dinners and to reach out to people and invite them to donate to his cause so that he can support the work that's being done. And probably his really lavish lifestyle and jets. That is not what happens, is it? In fact, the manner in which Jesus seems to select people rarely has anything to do with their professional qualification for the task at hand. This is the first time in Matthew that all 12 of the chosen 12 that we call the apostles are named. We have a couple of different stories of how Jesus acquires those disciples, including they were fishermen, and then we have a story about the ones that were followers of John, who then John said, hey, there's Jesus, you should go and check that guy out, and so they do, and they end up following Jesus. We have some stories that tell us that one of them's a tax collector, and they have various things, their brothers, or their father was so-and-so. We have little bits and pieces of information, but one thing we know for sure is that Jesus did not select them for their professional qualifications in relation to the task they were going to do. In fact, the manner in which Jesus selected them seemed to have absolutely nothing to do with anything. He seems to have just randomly selected people. In fact, he seems to have randomly selected people who will do things like simply drop what they're currently doing, leave their families, leave their dad sitting in a boat, and come and follow him. Why did Jesus select these people? Or did Jesus actually select them? Maybe they selected Jesus. More importantly, this is a moment in which we come to Jesus commissioning these people to go and do what Jesus has been doing. Jesus doesn't set up a backup team. He doesn't select people who are going to support him doing stuff. He selects people who are going to go out and actually do it. You know what's coming. I'm going to say Jesusing. Because that's exactly what happens in this story. The language that Jesus uses in describing what he wants them to go and do is the same language that Jesus uses earlier to describe what he's doing. The same language, Jesus looks out at what he's doing, and it's this. And then it's the very same thing that he wants the disciples to go and do. He wants them to be Jesus. He doesn't want them to just maybe do bits and pieces of what he does, or, the things that he knows they can, like go and fish or go and collect money from people. Ooh, that could have been his fundraiser right there, right? Except he's not. So Jesus wants them to go and be Jesus. And then he tells them how that's going to go for them. So imagine yourself in this story for a second, and you're one of the 12. What an honor, Jesus. Thank you for selecting me to go and be like you to other people. Thank you for empowering me to be able to do that. I'm sorry, what's going to happen? Nowhere, anywhere here does it say that any of the disciples questioned Jesus on the whole, don't take anything with you. And if people don't want to hear what you have to say, you should just move on. And by the way, there'll be people who not only don't want to hear what you have to say, they're going to be mad about what you have to say. They're going to hate you. They're going to persecute you. They're going to have you arrested and flogged and beaten. Off you go then. Nowhere in the story, of course, does it say the disciples even hesitated for a second. If it's you and me in this story, you know we're hesitating. We're wondering a little bit, first of all, about what we would need to pack and take with us secretly so that Jesus doesn't know we're doing it, because, we got to take some stuff. We have needs. Not to mention, maybe we should just be a little bit careful about what we say around certain people because, we might get arrested. In fact, we know stories of the disciples saying to Jesus, hey, hang on a second. Maybe you want to just pull it back a notch. Yet, here's Jesus saying, you 12, go and be me. Go and do the Jesusing, no matter what happens. You'll be taken care of in a good way if they're accepting, and you'll be taken care of in a bad way if they're not. But go and do it. And they go. Don't get me wrong, I do imagine that there was a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of reluctance in some of them, who are kind of like, first of all, are you sure we can do what you do? I mean, we're not you. And then there might have been a little bit of reluctance at what's going to happen? And yet, they do the Jesusing. But why? Why aren't they more reluctant? Why don't they refuse? Why don't they walk away? We also know there are stories where Jesus is talking to people and some of them just kind of go, no, I'm not having this, and off they go. We know that not everyone heard the message of Jesus. And yet here's these 12. Why did they go? I have a couple of thoughts about that. And they're not just about the disciples, they're about you and me. I think they went, first of all, because they've experienced the power of what Jesus does. No matter how you tell those stories, whether you tell them as outright miracles happened, or that Jesus moved people to act, or changed them by his engagement with them. Whether you believe that Jesus simply walked into a scene, made things better, and moved on, or you believe Jesus arrived, sat down and talked to people, listened to what they had to say, and helped them understand how loved and valued they are. And then after an exhausting conversation, moved on. They experienced that love in action. They saw its power. Not to make everything perfect or to change the world all in one shot, but the power to change people one person at a time. They had seen this power at work. And so when Jesus says to them, you have the power yourself, you can do it. they go and do it. That's the second thing right there. You have the power yourself. I think, and because I'm not completely satisfied with just making Jesus into a verb, I think Jesus could see the Jesusness in them. He could see in them the image of God, the love, the grace, the compassion. Whatever they did for a living, in them, in their hearts, he could see there was something greater. And that's what he calls them to. He doesn't call them to fish for people or to fundraise / collect taxes. He doesn't call them to do their profession. He calls them to be who they are, the image of God. He calls them to be the image of God as he has shown is possible in us. I'm going to say it again. Their Jesusness. And he sends them off to do Jesusing. I can't think of any other way of saying that. Actually, that's not true, I can. The thing about saying Jesus as a verb, or an adverb or an adjective, however you want to use that, I'm not entirely certain how I'm using it grammatically correctly, but still, the thing about saying that is Jesus encompasses those things that are Jesus. You could say, for instance, instead of the Jesusing, the love, the grace, the compassion, the power to connect, the power to, literally, empower, to give life, to create. You could say all of those things individually, absolutely. And there are moments, absolutely moments, when we need to name those things individually. And the disciples will very quickly discover, as they go off to do their Jesusing, that is how it works. Jesusing isn't one all-encompassing term when you live it. It's those different pieces, those tools that you use, those ways that you connect in the moment that they are needed. But he sends them out with a whole box of tools, right? That's another way I could say that. The Jesus box. No, I'm sticking with Jesusing. And he knows they can do it. He knows they can do it in the same way that he knows we can too. Because in each of us is that image of God, that love, that grace, that compassion, that all of that I want to wrap up in the verb, Jesusing. That we go and live like Jesus. Like as. Be is the thing. He isn't asking them to be like me or to do the things as I do them. He's asking them to be me, Jesus, to others. And that's the thing that we're asked too, right? And it's sure, I know, it's easy to go, but I'm not Jesus. I'm not all of those things we've learned about the Son of God, the Word made flesh. All of those things. But we are, is the thing. Jesus shows us how to live that. To live that love. We are also Word made flesh. We are also love in human form. We are also the image of God. That is in us already. Jesus is in us already. Jesus shows us how to live the Jesus that is in us. And no, that's not going to be easy lots of times. In fact, more often than not, it's going to be challenged. But see, the disciples had seen the power of that, and we do on a regular basis too, right? We see the stories of love and kindness. We also see the stories of hate and cruelty and brutality. Jesus calls us to see all those stories and engage all those stories, not just the moments where the loving is easy, the moments when the loving is hard. The moments when the loving is hard, most especially for us, because we know we have failed at it before. Am I going to be successful this time? Because, Jesus was perfect, right? And if I'm Jesus, I can't possibly live up to that. I can't possibly. Yes, you can. First of all, because, and yes, I'm going to say it, Jesus wasn't perfect. Jesus was human. Just like you and me. Very human in very many ways. And neither are you and I perfect. We are not called to be perfect in any way other than the perfection which is us. And that's what Jesus is calling. That's what Jesus is looking for. The Jesus-ness in you. Bring that to life. Bring that to life. Not just in the moments when it's easy, in the moments when it's hard, when it means recognizing things that we need to change, when it's recognizing ways in which we need to grow, when it's reaching out to people that we have difficulty reaching out to, when it's reaching out to people we have difficulty reaching out to because they have difficulty with us. It's in recognizing how we can all be different and still love and still engage each other. We don't want to all be the same. We don't want equality. We want equity. We want recognition that we're different in a way that's positive and affirming, that helps us grow and live and create and be better people and do even more Jesusing. That's what that's all about. Jesus didn't say to the disciples, "You have the power that I have. Now go and make the world perfect. And by the way, it's going to go excellently. Everyone's going to love what you have to say, and you're never going to do anything wrong. You're never going to make a mistake. It's all going to be fine." He didn't say that. He said, go and be me. Love. Show compassion. Show grace. Reach out. We are one in that love that connects us. Live into that.